Okay. Like Maya's emotional life, you got what you put into robots, but even the best were mindless idiots. One evening, Maya snagged her out in her tool room and asked her to switch to a private band. Michelle is useless, she complained. I'm having a really hard time. I'm really having a hard time, and he won't even talk to me. You're the only one I trust, Nadia. Yesterday, I told Frank that I thought John was trying to undercut his authority in Houston, but that he shouldn't tell anyone. I thought so, and the very day, John was asking me why I thought he was bothering Frank. There's no one who will just listen and stay quiet. Nadia nodded, rolling her eyes. Finally, she said, Sorry, Maya, I have to go talk to Hiroko about a leak they can't find. She banged her faceplate lightly against Maya's, a symbol for a kiss on the cheek, switched to the common band, and took off. Enough was enough. It was infinitely more interesting to talk to Hiroko. Real conversations about real problems in the real world. Hiroko was asking Nadia for help almost every day, and Nadia liked that, because Hiroko was brilliant. And since Landfall had obviously raised her estimate of Nadia's abilities. Yeah, people got jobs, Maya. This is Mars. Nadia liked that because Hiroko was brilliant. And since Landfall had obviously raised her estimate of Nadia's abilities. And so nice to talk nothing but business. Hermetic seals. Lock mechanisms. Thermal engineering. Glass polarization. Farm-human interface. Hiroko's talk was always a few steps ahead of the game. These topics were a great relief after all the emotional whispered conferences with Maya. Endless sessions about who liked Maya and who didn't like Maya, and about how Maya felt about this and that, and who had hurt her feelings that day. Bah. Hiroko was never strange. Except when she would say something Nadia didn't know how to deal with. Like, Mars will tell us what it wants, and then we'll have to do it. But what could you say to something like that? But Hiroko would just smile her big smile and laugh at Nadia's shrug. At night, the talk still went everywhere. Vehement, absorbed, unself-conscious. Dimitri and Samantha were sure that they could soon introduce genetically engineered microorganisms into the regolith that would survive, but they would have to get permission first from the UN. Nadia herself found the idea alarming. It made chemical engineering in the factories look relatively straightforward. More like brick making than the dangerous acts of creation Samantha was proposing. Although the alchemists were performing some pretty creative things themselves. Almost every day they came back to the trailer park with samples of new materials. Sulfuric acid, sorrel cements for the vault mortar, ammonium nitrate explosives, a calcium cyanamide rover fuel, polysulfide rubber, silicon-based hyperacids, emulsifying agents, a selection of test tubes holding trace elements extracted from the salts, and most recently, clear glass. This last was a coup, as earlier attempts at glassmaking had produced only black glass. But stripping silicate feedstocks of their iron content had done the trick, and so one night they sat in the trailer, passing around small, wavy sheets of glass. The glass itself filled with bubbles and irregularities, like something out of the 17th century. I'm trying to decide where to end the reading. Yeah, like my early sugar glass. Exactly. That's hilarious. I remember making brown glass because I heated it too high. A little less complex than filtering the iron oxides. Yeah. La la. Okay. All right. I figured out where I'm gonna end. Okay. Like something out of the 17th century with their glass. When they got the first chamber buried and pressurized, Nadia walked around inside it with her helmet off, sniffing the air. It was pressurized to 450 millibars, the same as the helmets and the trailer park, with an oxygen-nitrogen-argon mix and warmed to about 15 degrees centigrade. It felt great. The chamber had been divided into 2 stories by a floor of bamboo trunks, set in a slot in the brick wall, 2.5 meters overhead. The segmented cylinders made a sweet green ceiling, lit by neon tubes hung under them. Against one wall was a magnesium and bamboo staircase, leading through a hole to the upper story. She climbed up to have a look. Split bamboo over the trunks made a fairly flat green floor. The ceiling was brick, rounded and low. Up there, they would locate the bedrooms and bathroom. The lower floor would be living room and kitchen. Maya and Simon had already put up wall hangings, made of nylon from the salvaged parachutes. There were no windows. Lighting came only from neon bulbs. Nadia disliked this fact, and in the larger habitat that she was already planning, there would be windows in almost every room. But first things first. For the time being, these windowless chambers were the best they could do, and a big improvement over the trailer park after all. As she went back down the stairs, she ran her fingers over the bricks and mortar. They were rough but warm to the touch, heated by elements placed behind them. There were heating elements under the floor as well. She took off her shoes and socks, luxuriating in the feel of the warm, rough bricks underfoot. It was a wonderful room. And nice, too, to think that they had gone all the way to Mars and there built homes out of brick and bamboo. She recalled vaulted ruins that she had seen years ago on Crete, at a site called Aptera, underground Roman cisterns, barrel vaulted and made of brick, buried in a hillside. They had been almost the same size as these chambers. Their exact purpose was unknown. Storage for olive oil, some said, though it would have been an awful lot of oil. Those vaults were intact 2,000 years after their construction, and in earthquake country. As Nadia put her boots back on, she grinned to think of it. 2,000 years from now, their descendants might walk into this chamber. No doubt a museum by them, if it still existed. The first human dwelling built on Mars, and she had done it. Suddenly, she felt the eyes of that future on her and shivered. They were like Cro-Magnons in a cave, living a life that was certain to be pored over by archaeologists of subsequent generations. People like her who would wonder and never quite understand. The end for now. Thank you for listening and reading with me.